Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll get started just now.
Hi, everybody. I'm pleased to meet you. My name is Claire Scally. I'm Managing Director of TRC. We've been running the RAD programme for a number of years now. This is going to be our 5th RAD Scotland. Delighted to welcome you all to our webinar today. Just to give you a bit of background to the programme itself, how you can apply for it and what you need to think of when you're applying for it. And also just give you a feel for what some people who've been on the programme before, what their experience has been both before the programme, on the programme and afterwards. So I'm going to hand back to Amy now, who's the project manager for RAD. And if you get on the programme, she'll be the person you'll be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I'll pass you over to Amy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this pretty sunny lunchtime if you're in Glasgow. Just some housekeeping from me before we kind of have a look at what RAD is all about. So you might have seen we've got Roy on the screen here. So Roy is our BSL interpreter. So you should be able to see him, but if not, you should be able to use the Q&A box, which will be at the bottom of your screen on Zoom, and we'll be able to fix that for you. But hopefully everyone can see Roy and they can also see the PowerPoint. You can also enable closed captioning at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you need to as well. The session is being recorded, but attendees will not be filmed. It's just the panelists that will be filmed. So don't worry about kind of being shown on screen. Please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you do have any questions. Some of the questions will be answered live and some will be answered in the Q&A box. So we'll try and do a mixture of both. We will try and get through as many as we can, but we can't, guarantee that we'll be able to get through all the questions if there's lots. We'll also be using Mentimeter today to find out a bit more about you and who we've got in the webinar. So if you could head to menti.com and put that code in, this code will appear on all of the slides, and you'll be able to answer some questions about how you found us, what you're watching on TV, and a bit more about you as well. So if you head to menti.com and put in that code, you'll be able to join and answer the questions kind of as we go. So that's all the housekeeping from me. I'm going to tell you a bit more about what RAD is. So RAD is a real living wage paid 8-month traineeship. It's kind of all within Scotland. Most of our companies are based within Glasgow, and it's aimed at people who are underrepresented in the TV industry. So it's for people who are either deaf, disabled, and or neurodivergent, people from Black, Asian, or minority ethnic communities, or people from socially economically disadvantaged backgrounds. On the application form on our website, it goes into a bit more detail about all of those different categories as well. So in RAD, you work for a Scottish independent TV production company for 8 months, and you also receive full training throughout the placement as well. Like Claire said, you'll have me there kind of guiding you through the training and guiding you through your jobs. And you'll also have the support within your company as well. So you'll kind of be supported from both sides, from us at TRC and also within your companies as well. So before we kind of get into the roles a bit, if you join the Mentimeter, you'll be able to see the first question, which is how much experience do you have in the TV industry? So if you could just vote there, there's a few different options, just so we can kind of see who's on the call and how much experience you all have. RAD is aimed at people who have kind of under 6 months experience paid within the industry. So, you might be totally new to the industry. You might have studied it at uni and want to kind of get your first step in the door. RAD is for kind of anyone like that. Nice. We've got a mixture of people, quite a few people studying. Hopefully you've not got exams at the minute. And if you have, I hope they're going okay. Nice. Some people have got experience, so might be, kind of have done a bit of runner work. A lot of no experience as well is totally fine. The training will kind of take you through the whole TV industry and the whole sort of production process. Amazing. So we'll have a look a bit more at what each of the roles are that we offer on RAD. So we have 3 roles available on our RAD program. They'll be kind of split across different people, different roles. There's 3 roles, and we'll have about 8 to 10 places on RAD this year. So we have researchers. So researchers can either work in development or production. We also have a production assistant and an edit assistant. So I'm going to go through them all and see if any take your fancy and a bit more about what each job entails. So researchers are there to support the editorial team. So that's people like your assistant producers, your producers, and your series producers to organise, plan and research on-screen activity during the programme. So that is kind of getting people on the show and finding out where they could film the show as well. So researchers, this is a really good job for you if you're friendly, if you have good phone skills. This is something that's really, really important as a researcher. And hopefully Sadie, one of our lovely panelists, shortly will be able to talk to you a bit more about this. Love research and ideas. So if you are studying at the minute, if you really enjoyed writing your dissertation, then a researcher role could be really, really great for you. If you have an instinct for a good story, so you kind of like storytelling, you like that aspect of TV, and if you have great interpersonal and organizational skills as well. So obviously, if you're a researcher, a big part of that job could involve finding contributors for the show. So making sure that you can talk to people, sell your TV show, sell the idea and sell the story, and find those good characters for TV. It's also good if you can work well in a team. That's kind of something you'll see throughout these job roles. Because obviously can't make a TV show without all the pieces of the puzzle coming together and working as a team. So that's your researcher. We have development and production. So development is coming up with all the initial ideas for the TV shows, and production is kind of putting that into place and getting the show on the road, so to speak. Next up, we've got our production assistant role. And this is all about the kind of admin, logistics, and organizational side of TV. So it's assisting production coordinators and production managers to ensure the smooth running of the creation of a program or series. So this job is really, really good if you have good organizational skills. Also really need to be able to use your initiative and be able to kind of problem solve. If you've got a good eye for detail, if you like kind of figuring out details of things, and also a good learner that can kind of pick stuff up easily, and you're not afraid to kind of pick stuff up if it has gone wrong, for example. So production assistant, imagine if you're trying to get 10 crew up to Inverness for a shoot tomorrow and there's a train strike and all the trains are cancelled, or it's bad weather and all the trains are cancelled. How are you going to get those 10 people up to Inverness for the shoot the next day? That's something that a production assistant would kind of work with the production team to figure out a solution to. So it's kind of making sure you've got all the right people in the right place to make the TV show. Last up, we have our edit assistant role. So this is a really, really crucial role as well. It's working within the editing team, and it's all about kind of organizing the data, digitizing footage and transferring editing materials. So the key part of the edit assistant role is to make sure that the editor has everything they need to be able to edit and put the show together, ready for it to go out on TV. So this job would be great if you are a budding editor, if you've got any editing experience, even if it's just playing about on iMovie or on Avid, which is what a lot of editors use. If you're familiar with that, the edit assistant role is probably perfect for you. Even if you've not had to play around with any editing software, if you're good with computers, and if you kind of have some knowledge of digital files and media files, then this could be a really interesting role as well. Edit assistants have to work really well in a team, again, as I said, to kind of make sure that everyone outside of the editing suite and the editing team knows what's needed in order to make sure the show can be cut together. And it also obviously helps to be friendly and organized, but that's across all 3 roles, I think. Claire, have you got anything to add about these 3 roles at the minute?
No, all very well informed, and just to point you towards our website as well for the frequently asked questions, and which will give you some more background and understanding of how to fill out your application form, because don't underestimate the skills you have, I would say as well. You know, organizational skills can be planning a family wedding, it can be all sorts of things, so bear that in mind when you're doing your application form.
Yeah, definitely. Just to mirror what Claire said, kind of think about jobs you might have done that you think, oh, I don't know if that's kind of relatable to TV industry. There's always something that's transferable within the industry, and hopefully kind of breaking these roles down and looking at them in a bit more detail has helped show that to you all. So just to kind of go through more of the logistics of the RAD program. So applications are currently open. They do close on Tuesday at 5 p.m. So you've only got a few more days to get your applications in. I would say don't rush them. I know some of the panelists might say they did them quite last minute, but please do kind of take your time with them and think about what it is that you want to showcase in your application. We want to see your passion for TV, I think, first and foremost, and also what skills you can bring kind of as someone that's new to the industry, and has obviously lots of new ideas that the TV industry definitely needs. The companies will do the interviews. So TRC will kind of select a shortlist, and the companies will choose who they want to interview. That will be sort of mid to late June. And then the placements, if you were to be successful, would start early August. So I think it's Monday, the 5th of August is when you would start. And in that week, you would have quite a few training sessions in your first week. So you're not kind of totally going into the job without a clue what it'll look like or what to expect. So that moves nicely onto the training part of things. So the traineeship is 8 months long. So you'd be starting in August, and then that means you would finish in April next year. It is a fully paid traineeship, so you'd be paid the real living wage, kind of as a minimum. So that is £12 per hour at the minute, and that's for a 35-hour working week. You'd receive on-the-job training within your companies. You also would have an assigned company contact who is kind of there to give you support, make sure that you're kind of getting the most out of your experience within the company. You're getting to see kind of lots of different sides to TV production. And yeah, just that you're having the best possible time and getting the most experience that you can. You'll also have training sessions, which will be run by TRC. And those will be kind of, you know, you'll get the time off from your companies for those. You won't have to take annual leave. These are normally 1 or 2 a month, depending on kind of how it all lines up. And you have cohort of fellow interns. So hopefully, again, the panelists will talk about that a bit more later on. So you'll kind of have a group that you go through training with for the whole 8 months. So you'll see them kind of every few weeks. So that's a really nice way to kind of make you feel like you're not on your own, and you can kind of go and ask questions that you might think, oh, I don't want to ask anyone at my company that, or it feels like a silly question. You know, you've got that cohort there that can kind of answer those questions that everyone's probably thinking. And you'll also receive mentoring after the traineeship ends. So that's kind of, we'll set you up with someone in the industry to chat about what it is that you want to get out of the industry and what your career can look like. So in terms of training, it's a combination of personal development sessions and industry sessions. So you kind of have hands-on sessions such as camera workshops, things like looking at editing. You'd obviously have in-depth sessions on the researcher role as well and production side of things. and then personal development to kind of boost your confidence and know what it's like to be a freelancer in TV and kind of how to know how to be a freelancer in TV. The sessions will be delivered online and in person, and we work with a kind of whole mixture of trainers, some of which we've used since the start of RAD. So this is the 5th year that we've run RAD. So it's a lot of trainers that we kind of have worked with for a long time and really get the ethos behind what it is we're trying to do with the RAD program. The training would start in August. Like I said, you'd kind of receive a batch of training at the start. So kind of a few days in that first week to make sure that you're set up and feeling confident for your first day in the office. So just going to quickly show you some shows that you could be working on. All of the companies that we work with mainly produce unscripted content. So within unscripted, there's lots of different sort of genres and types of show. So you could be working on documentaries, you could be working on factual entertainment, could be working on kids shows, live sports. So we kind of work with a whole host of companies across lots of different shows. And obviously each company makes lots of different shows themselves. So on the screen here, we've just got a few images from shows that the kind of current cohort of RAD that have just finished have worked on. So we've got the Janie Godley doc, if anyone went to go see that at the film festival. One of our trainees worked on that. Yorkshire Auction House, The Secret Genius of Modern Life, which is a BBC science production, Highland Cops, and the Scottish Book Club, to name a few. Hopefully the panelists will speak a bit more about what shows they've worked on and what they're currently working on as well, so you can kind of get a bit more insight into the different shows. Really exciting news as well is that 80% of our trainees from this year's cohort have found immediate work at the end of the programme. So it is, you know, whilst we obviously can't guarantee a job at the end of the contracts, there is lots of kind of scope to stay within your companies and kind of move around in different roles within the industry. Last thing from me before I pass you back over to Claire is, I think I've got another question. Yeah, so now that you've kind of had a look at all 3 roles and I've gone into a bit more detail, if you just select on your Mentimeter what role you're most interested in, just so we can kind of gauge who's on the call and what sort of roles people are interested in. Lots of researchers. Nice, that's good, that's good. It's a good role to do. A few production assistants, some edit assistants as well. That's good. Amazing. Nice. So I'll pass back over to Claire and, oh, sorry, messed my slides up there. I'll pass you back over to Claire and she'll introduce you to our wonderful panelists.
Hi, everybody. Back over to me now. And there's Rob, who's our interpreter. Hi, Rob. So I'm going to now introduce you to our panelists for the session, Sadie, Kelsey, and Lucy, who will be putting their cameras on just now. Thank you guys very much for coming onto the webinar today. Sadie, Kelsey and Lucy have all come off the most recent RAD programme, and we're absolutely delighted to have them on here and to get a sense of their story. So I'll be asking each of you the same questions, you know, so we get you different perspectives on where we're going. But it would be good to just initially get an idea and a sense of your background and why you came onto the programme. You know, what was your reason for applying for RAD? So I'd love to get a sense of where you were in life at the time and how you saw it and what made you apply. So I'll start with Lucy, please.
Hello. Yeah, so it was about this time last year, maybe a bit earlier. I was at uni in my final year and I was working on my dissertation back home. And my mum came into my room and she's like, "So after you graduate, what are you gonna do?" I was like, I didn't even think of that. Like I was just so busy with deadlines in uni that I was like, I forgot that after uni ends, I need to think about the next stage. So I started looking away at all these different opportunities and I got an email from I think the career service and it was for this traineeship. And immediately I was like, this is what I need. This is what I've been looking for. Just because I knew I wanted to work in the TV industry, but I just didn't know how to get my foot in the door. I just thought, it just felt like such a far unreachable thing. And there's like many obstacles in between it. So RAD, it just felt like this place where no matter what your background is, they will take you in, give you the traineeship. And I was really interested in production assisting as well. So it just kind of completely lined up. And yeah, that's how I got to there.
Would you say that you had specific obstacles or barriers in your case? Because obviously, Amy has outlined that the rationale behind RAD is for people facing particular challenges. What would you say was the thing stopping you from working in TV or getting in the way?
Well, definitely, I think at the start I thought just being a woman, being from an ethnic background, I just thought that that could be an obstacle. You just see the statistics and things, but what I've noticed from working here is there's definitely things changing. You can definitely see people are starting to make an effort to switch around with that. So it's been very refreshing to see, and it's kind of calmed my fears a bit more that it's definitely taking a turn for the better for sure.
Great, good stuff. And actually, I should have obviously asked you to introduce yourself in terms of if you could tell us at that, and I'll say that for each of you, when you're coming out, where did you come into, what company you worked with in what role on the RAD program?
Yes, so I came on to Firecrest and I worked as a production assistant or production secretary on a lot of blue light shows like Paramedics on Scene and Highland Cops and Murder Trial. It was really good, which I meant to say, like the length of the contract meant I was able to go on to loads of different productions, which is good for gaining credits because a lot of places they want at least like 3 credits. So yeah, that was what I did.
Good, good. You'll hear already in there, Lucy's out now become a pro in the industry using terms like blue light shows, which means anything that's got a siren on top, so hence ambulances, cops, that kind of thing. So, but it's lovely to hear how readily working in telly has become part of your, day-to-day language. But that's part of what we do with the training in RAD, as well as help get you through. We do it like almost like an A to Z of what the terminology is and how to understand what people are saying to you, because there's lots of jargons and lots of acronyms and things, but also to give you the confidence to be able to ask them to explain stuff as well. That's a key bit. Kelsey, same to you. Where were you at in life when you heard about RAD?
So I had graduated uni in 2022 and I had, like a lot of yous, was studying English and film, so I kind of knew that I was interested in TV and film, stuff like that. But like when I graduated, I felt like even though I kind of had the theoretical skills, the actual practical skills and networking, like getting into the industry, like I was still really lacking. Like there wasn't really a lot of support with that. So for about a year, I was just kind of working in hospitality and like applying to like runner positions and stuff, in like different like apprenticeships. But a lot of the apprenticeships I didn't really qualify for because like I had a uni degree. And then so I felt like that's like a big gap. That sometimes there is things out there like apprenticeships, but people can still fall through the gaps because obviously even though I didn't really have a network and I'm from a working class background, like there was nothing that really fit my exact situation until like I came across RAD. But I really think RAD helped a lot in terms of building a network, and that's probably one of my like biggest takeaways. Because like when I was working that year in hospitality, I'd really like given up, and like Lucy said, like working in TV feels like it's so far away and it's no realistic. And then I feel like RAD really helped make that a reality.
And I think that's a key thing to kind of flag up. I see there's already questions coming through about lived experience, because Sadie, you went to university as well, didn't you? So we're, you know, just to kind of that time, we have 3 panelists today who've all been to university. That is not in any way a prerequisite for doing RAD. It's people with no experience whatsoever of the industry. Is absolutely, it's open to everybody who meets the different categories of eligibility for the program. But it just but you can also be a university graduate who faces challenges and barriers, because it doesn't necessarily mean, as you're saying, Kelsey, that opens doors to you. I mean, how did you feel in that sense coming off your uni degree? You know, why did you study that, or did you have a roadmap in your head as to how you were going to get in, or did you kind of get to the end of it going, oh, I've no idea, you know?
Well, when I've obviously went to uni, it's because like you're always told in school, and it is a good thing that people are told that, oh, you go to uni and then that'll open doors, especially because I'm from a working class background and my school was in a working class area. They really pushed like universities like kind of way out, like
Yeah.
like out of the path. You maybe see other people falling down. So I feel like I felt so good when I got to uni, and then but like that, like then it's like you get to the end of uni and you're like, oh, like I actually need to this isn't the end, like you need to keep going. And then it was kind of when I got to the end of uni, I was a bit like, oh no, like I really don't know where to go for here. Like there was a path up until uni that I could see quite clearly, and then after that I was a bit like, oh, I really don't know like where to go for here.
Yeah. And did RAD therefore kind of make you give you a sense of support, if you like?
Yeah, definitely. Like, because so I'm still working with Hello Hello, and I originally went in as a trainee production assistant, which is kind of thought the route I wanted to go. But then because RAD like does so much work in teaching and gain experience in different roles, I kind of realised I was maybe more interested in like researcher and editorial route. So I feel like that's something else that RAD's really good about. Like they don't kind of pigeonhole people. It's not like, oh, like everybody that wants to be a researcher just gets kind of training on being a researcher, and everybody that wants to be a production assistant only gets that training. It's like everybody kind of learns everything, which is quite good for maybe realising there's maybe a different route that you're kind of interested in than you originally thought.
Yeah, great, thank you. Sadie, same question. So as I say, Sadie, you know, you went to uni as well, but it's not to put anybody who's in the audience off applying, because you can have all sorts of different backgrounds that take you through that. So it just so happens that the 3 people who we asked and were available to come on this webinar today have those backgrounds. So don't let that put you off in any way or shape at all. Sadie, what was your story? Tell us about where you were in life when you applied.
Yeah, and what I would say as well on the uni thing is a lot of people in the industry have never went to uni, and they're for a way up the top, you know, like it's definitely not something that the industry look at, I would say, as much as who you are and what, like, you know, if you show up and you do your thing, that's more important than any degree or anything like that. Like I would not think that that's an issue in any way, shape or form. But yeah, so I'm kind of similar to Kelsey and Lucy in a way. You know, I come from a working class background, a small town where everyone's kind of stuck, and you know, you're told like, oh, you're not going to amount to anything. And I really didn't like that thought. I wanted to escape and I wanted to get out. So I went to uni, and it was great for 4 years. And then I got to near the end and I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And I ended up actually joining one of these calls just by chance. And it convinced me. I was like, this is for me. I need to do this. This is what I need to do to get where I want to be. And it done exactly that. It was really, really great.
Good. And I mean, you'd mentioned before, even in a talk we did before, about a sense of even growing up, people not understanding why you were doing film and TV. Is that right? You know, it was just kind of like that's out of reach.
Yeah, like, you know, especially everyone was like, oh, go get a real job, or, you know, you're never going to make it. Such a unreachable, as everyone's talked about, industry. It's not, it really isn't. And you're kind of always told you know, you're never going to do it, you're never going to do it, but you can. And, you know, if you put your mind to it, you know, it's really reachable if you do that, especially through this program.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Because just as well with Kelsey and Lucy, did and you say, did you have anybody around you who'd worked in sort of film and telly background? Did you have any kind of way in at all to the industry? Because this is a large part of what RAD's about, is dispelling that thing of like it's who you know. Did either?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Even at uni, it wasn't, there was a couple of like workshops with, you know, companies you would say, but we never had that person, oh, how do we get this? How do we get that? It's very much like we were left on our own once we finished. So.
Okay. Kelsey, at the end of you said you worked for about a year after leaving uni, was it, in hospitality jobs?
Yeah, so through uni, I worked in hospitality in Celtic Park, and then that was like 0 hours, so I could just kind of continue that and like pick up shifts wherever. And then it was just like a job in a restaurant and bar, and I just worked in there for about a year while still actively trying to get into the industry, but like didn't really know how. Like I was just applying for like runner positions and entry positions and kind of like cold emailing different independent companies and just trying to get a hold of emails and stuff. And like that, I did apply through a few apprenticeships and stuff, but like that either like I didn't really qualify for them or like they just weren't really a good fit, like kind of not really what I was looking for.
Yeah.
But I was working for it. That's why I was kind of like giving up a bit before RAD, so it kind of came at like quite a good time because it had felt like, in the grand scheme of things, a year's not a long time, but like it felt like a long time, and I could kind of started to like give up on like the pipe during my TV and stuff a bit, just because it felt like it was going absolutely nowhere.
Right. So it came at a good time for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Done another 6 months, you might have just, gone a different way. No, that's good to know. That's good to know. In terms of the program then, so now you've got on the program, and actually, Lucy and Sadie, no, Sadie, you were on one of these webinars, Lucy and Kelsey. Were either of you on one of these? Did you do one of these sessions before applying for RAD? Did you do?
I don't think so. No.
I think I might have came to one of the info sessions, but I don't think there was panelists on it.
All right. Okay. That's cool. Because it's just interesting to know as well who got inspired by doing it. It was nice to kind of hear Sadie saying that it was because she did the webinar that it helped her to see it was a good thing to do. In terms of when you got on the program, what would you say your biggest takeaway was from the RAD program? Kelsey, you're in the spotlight here now, so I'll start with you. What was your biggest takeaway from RAD, or your highlights of doing the program?
Like I said, I think a lot of us would probably say like the cohort that you kind of go through RAD with is kind of like a wee mini built-in network that's really good to go into the industry with, because it just feels like you kind of already have that support there and like some contacts in different places. And then generally as well, just the opportunities that RAD gives, like with the workshops and stuff, you build contacts that way. And then obviously being in your company, you build a lot of contacts. So I feel like that's something that's really important and like a really good thing that you can get from RAD. But other than that, I would say a few of the sessions kind of build on obviously confidence and stuff. But I think particularly for me, like I had never really worked in a professional office environment. So I think a lot of the training kind of helped how with that, and like how to market yourself and how to kind of conduct yourself in a way that kind of like showcase your skills or like help you sell yourself to companies and like interviews, and even like while you're working, like how to like ask for different opportunities and kind of like level up and stuff. I feel like there was really good training kind of in that realm of things as well.
You mentioned that in one of our feedbacks at the end of the program, didn't you? Particularly about that thing of your own personal brand. Somebody asked a question on here about what's the personal development training. We do things around how to have difficult conversations, how to communicate, put yourself forward. But I thought you described that really well in terms of how it gave you confidence. That was the sessions with Sarah, one of our trainers.
Yeah, definitely. even like that, like, so that kind of stuff, like we've done like stress management and like that and like difficult conversations. So I feel like stuff like that generally just helps your confidence, not just in the workplace, like just like public speaking. Like I feel like my confidence increased a lot. Like Amy mentioned, like in our first like rad session, she noted like how quiet I was. And then obviously to like go for there to this, like it's obviously like a big difference.
Yeah. So do you think it's changed you as a person, would you say?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think I'm definitely more confident in like a lot more kind of that. I feel like everybody generally in any industry, but specifically in this industry, there can be a lot of like imposter syndrome. And I feel like the kind of skills I've learned for ad makes me feel in a position where like I actually know what I'm talking about sometimes, most of the time. But like just kind of having that confidence, like, oh, I should be here. Like this is a place for me. It's no for like certain people or like people that fit certain categories. It can be for anybody for any background.
Right, fantastic. Sadie, to you, what was your sort of highlight, would you say, from the program, and do you think it's changed you, you know, or benefited you to do it?
I think that the biggest highlight for me was the people, as Kelsey said, the cohort, but also people in the industry. I think that I was always told that it was a cutthroat, scary industry. It's the opposite. Everyone wants you to do well, and everyone tries to elevate you and make you learn, and just like everybody wants to see you do well. And I think that that's something that, you know, takes away a lot of the scariness as well. Like everyone's lovely and everyone's just trying to help. But as well, as Kelsey was mentioning as well, see the asking for what you want, the sessions, like they really pushed you to, you know, view yourself as not an imposter. You know, you're meant to be here. This is for you. You're here for a reason. And it does give you that extra confidence that you need, I think, to go into the industry on your own. But again, you're not on your own because you've built this entire network of people from the cohort, people from the industry that you've met, and people like other people's cohorts as well. It's not just, sorry, I'm getting a call.
He's a busy production executive now.
But yeah, I think that it's really important to have those people and to move into the industry with those people, and that's what really shined out for me.
Fantastic. So people for you very much. Lucy, what about you? What would you say was your biggest takeaway from doing the whole of RAD?
I think when I thought about this, I thought it's just the right amount of challenging. Like you are going into this completely new environment, so it is a bit like, whoa, where am I? But at the same time, you have the safety of being a trainee, of being able to say, actually, I don't know what that is. Can you tell me? And I think in school, in uni, I was very like, if I didn't understand something, I'd be like, I'm just going to solve it by myself. And I would just confuse myself more. So it was kind of, that was me stepping up my comfort zone to be like, I'm actually here as someone who doesn't know things, who has gaps in my knowledge. And then asking for that was just actually gave me a lot of comfort, even like making mistakes. When I said to someone, I think I've booked the flight for the wrong time. And they were like, oh yeah, let me tell you about the time where I did this and I cost the company thousands. And I was like, oh, good, cool. I thought you were going to send me out the door, but I'm actually, it's all good. And I felt like that bonded me with the people I work with as well. And also I want to echo what both of you said. I was really inspired by both of you throughout the whole traineeship by hearing your stories and seeing the different turns that you took. Like Kelsey, when you realized that you wanted to go into a different department, I was really inspired by that. And just, yeah, I just think that was what was really amazing is we were all doing such different things, but we're all in a group together and we could get advice from each other. Like Sadie, you really helped me towards the end. Just telling me about contacts and things and how to network and stuff. So I just thought that was just an amazing part of it. And Amy as well, she was really great if ever I had a little thing to rant about as well. So you just are very much in a place of support even after it ends. So that was definitely my biggest takeaways for sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you found your job, what you're doing, you see where you went in and now how you've moved on and found your new role?
Yes, so I saw someone in my work forward me a application for IWC Media, they were looking for a production assistant, and that was where someone from this traineeship was also working. So I kind of had like a bridge through that as well. And I went for a job interview there, and they were like, I felt like it went really well. And then they were like, sorry, we just have to wait. Like, we don't know that we're not got like a green light yet. And I basically just emailed them constantly and didn't let them forget me. And they eventually were like, all right, come on over. But I was getting a lot of advice and support from people in my work. Like they did fake interviews with me and stuff to like prepare me for how the interview would be, and gave me loads of tips and things. So that's how I've ended up here in my next stage.
Fantastic. Well, we'll come back to the word tips in a minute, but so Sadie, likewise, you tell us about your kind of career and how it's progressed from.
Yeah, so I finished at Tern after the 8 months period, and then sadly never had enough money to keep me on. So I finished my contract on the Friday, and I had a job within hours. And this was just by emailing people. The one thing that I would recommend is just email, and make it personal. Don't just add a CV or nothing like that. Make it personal, make it something, show them that you've watched what they make, and show them that you've are interested in what they do, and it'll get you in the door. I got the job and started a week later. So I think it's really important just to get yourself out there and be bold, you know.
Good woman. And Kelsey, just to fill everybody in, you're still with the company that you joined. So if you could just tell a little bit about how your role has progressed with Hello.
And
mention a couple of shows they make, because I think it helps to understand, you know, the companies you're in as well.
So at Hello Halo, we do factual stuff as well, and like nature stuff, but we've been really popular for kids shows recently in the time I've worked here. So I've worked a lot in kids shows, which again is something that I maybe didn't necessarily envision, but like I've really enjoyed it, and it's been really good experience. So my contract was supposed to end in February, but it's been extended to the end of the year. So I feel like I've not really faced the ambiguous freelance life yet, the same way Lucy and Sadie have. But my role, it's stayed the same in some ways, but at the same time, I've had a lot of different experiences. And because we had a conversation about my new contract, which again is where I had to kind of implement some of that stuff. I kind of learned about having hard conversations and asking for the stuff that you want. I kind of implemented that there, and negotiated that if I'm staying in the company, I'd really like to get a bit more editorial experience and a bit more researcher experience if possible. And that was something that was like took away and discussed, and then they get back to me and said that they're happy to do that. As long as it aligns with the right project and stuff. So just stuff like that, like I've been getting a lot more access to like development opportunities, which is something I was interested in. And I feel like they've still been really good at making sure that I'm involved in things and basically making sure the door's open for me within the company to kind of look at anything I'm interested in. Like I've been invited into the edit for one of the shows that I was done runner work on as well. So that'll be good to have seen like an episode being filmed and then following it into the edit and then seeing how that works.
Great. Fantastic. There's a lot of questions coming in here, I can see, and some of them are very, very specific to the person. I'm trying to find ones that would fit across the panel. Somebody said, if you have a specific aspiration for a role, can your industry contact possibly help you reach that goal? Well, I think that's kind of been answered by some of you. Lucy, you were just saying how the company actually that you were based with, that you were set with, they helped you do interviews for the new job you went on to. So I think there's a lot of comments here about how people are very reassured by the way you're coming across, as how supportive your companies were. I think across the board that seems to be, it is definitely our experience of running the RAD program that the companies who get involved in this want to help you to get on in your careers. Somebody's asked, how many production companies did each panelist interview with? It varies. It's usually minimum of 5, maximum of 10. I think it's important for us to say at this point, because we've had somebody who applied before who didn't get on, and I know that can be very frustrating. We do say, oh, if you're somebody on here who's applied before and you didn't get on, please feel free to apply again, because the companies aren't always the same. I think it's a really important thing to stress that we don't select who goes on the program. We shortlist. You've got to meet the criteria and the eligibility. And then if there's a couple of hundred people applying, you know, it's going to be the people who make the strong case, the standout applications. And that can be not about experience, that's about your personality, your passion, your commitment. You know, those kind of things are what we look for in the application forms. But then we shortlist that into a long shortlist that goes out to all of the companies that are going to host a trainee, and they then decide who they want to interview. So Lucy, can you remember how many interviews you had?
I think I had hopscotch, Firecrest, and STV. I think I just had 3, but I was also not in the country, so I could only do ones that could accommodate over Zoom. So that's kind of the thing.
So there you go. We can also be we can facilitate if things are going to happen over Zoom as well, which I think is good to be able to point out. And we do help and support you, you know, with your interviews as well. So and the companies are very understanding about that. You know, so if there's a question here, if somebody wasn't successful with the RAD application, what would be your advice moving forward? Well, we've got a bunch of resources that we can help you, you know, to signpost you to other places that you might go as well. And, you know, that would sort of help to signpost you towards other places to go. But we would say do apply again. Amy, I don't know if you want to come in on that one in terms of other support.
Good question. I think kind of what everyone said in terms of your application, kind of show your passion for it. But obviously if you're not successful, then we can still kind of, you know, keep your information and give you kind of support and, you know, kind of further opportunities while it might be without kind of outside of RAD and outside of TRC. Then if you sign up to our newsletter, then you'll kind of hear about what we're doing and kind of other stuff that's in the industry. But I'd also recommend signing up to things like the Creative Scotland newsletter. I think that's where quite a few people normally hear about RAD from, but that kind of has loads of opportunities on there. And get yourselves on the Screen Skills website as well, because they've got so many resources.
Yeah. Fantastic question on here is, thank you so much for the event. It's been reassuring to hear everyone's different stories. Am I right of asking if there's anything you would recommend to ace interviews for this traineeship if we get invited to one? So that's an absolute question for the panel here. And I'm going to come to Lucy last because she's got a particular tip that she can help. So Kelsey, what would you say to people interested in applying in terms of to ace their well, I would actually say, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. But the application form and then the interviews is, you know, you can decide across the 2. What was it, the thing that kind of nailed it, do you think?
So with the application, I would say, even obviously as well, I know there was a few concerns about people saying like, oh, if they've no been to uni and stuff, like, does that matter? And I'd say it's definitely more about like showing your passion for TV and like storytelling, not even necessarily specifically TV, like just storytelling and being able to show that passion through the questions in the application, which I think is like quite good with the questions that are asked. And then again for the interview, again just showing, I would definitely research each company and know what they make and be able to relate to like, oh, I've seen you have made this, like that's something that I'm interested in. Even if it's maybe something like that with kids TV, I was never really particularly aiming for kids TV, but if there's things you can pick out and be like, oh, I'm really interested in like how kids TV can do XYZ or whatever, or how nature documentaries do this, things like that, like know the company you're interviewing for, because it just makes it a lot more personal and it'll make you stand out as well. And again, just make sure your passion's coming through. It's obviously hard, like when you're nervous in an interview, but like you just need to kind of overcome it and just be able to show how passionate you are.
Fantastic. And Sadie, what would be your tips for applying both the application form and the interview?
I think for both, just let your personality shine through. I think that that's really important for you to stand out. You don't want to be kind of writing it in a corporate way or in a way that's gonna, when people are reading they can't feel who you are through it. I think that's one thing in my application I tried to do was have me on the page, if that makes sense. And yeah, go into depth about your favorite TV shows and your least favorite TV shows, and go into depth about your passion, let your passion shine through. And the same with the interview. And as Kelsey said, especially if you're going into a research position, if you've not researched the company, then that's a big no-no. Like, you want to be showing that you're interested and showing that you know already what they make and what they do, and align with their values, and be yourself. I think that's just one of the best bits of advice.
Fantastic. Could you actually just tell us a little bit about where you are now for exactly that, in terms of having passion and understanding the company that you're going for? How did you land that job?
Yeah, so I was working at Turn and I loved it. It was great. Loved what they made, but Studio Something is where I'm now, and Studio Something's based in Edinburgh, and they're more entertainment, branded content, but football mainly. They love their football. If you've ever seen A View from the Terrace, they make that show. And straight away, they're all Hearts fans as well, which I am too, which makes it a bit easier. One of the people at my old company said, you'd really fit in here. Here's their personal emails. So I emailed them a big spiel about how I loved football, how what it meant to me. I loved their work, picked out some of their VTs from their show, and kind of was like, I'd love to chat. And then they offered me a casting researcher / production assistant role for one of their new shows for the Euros. So yeah, I'm working on that just now. It's been absolutely great. And it's great to have your passion mixed with another passion,
But that may be what cinched it for you, is that you were able to go in and talk about the world that they're producing for, which is great. You don't have to have experienced it, but you've got to at least show that you're interested and you know what they do. Yeah. Lucy, same question for you, and you have something you prepared earlier, an episode of Blue Peter.
I did. I was saying like the research is the biggest thing, because I made the mistake for the STV. I thought, well, it's STV. It's one of the biggest channels. And then they asked me what's my favorite show they made, and my mind went blank, and I realized I have no idea. So I think definitely researching, and you'll feel a lot less nervous the more prepared you are. That's definitely the key to it. And yeah, I made a list of like tips and skills that you can work on.
Are we going to share that, because it's really cool?
Oh, thank you. This just for like the experience as a whole, but if you have a job that you have in mind that you want, this is number 2, go on to like job descriptions, go on to like advertisements. The talent manager is a really good one, and they will break down what the requirements are in this role, and you just make a little checklist of this. And then if you get onto the traineeship, you say, oh, I really want to get experience with booking kit. I really want to do some logging. And so it's kind of like that means when you get to the end of your contract, if you're going for a job interview somewhere else, you've got these skills and you've got examples of how you did them and what the challenges were, so you can talk about them when you're asked. Another thing that I learned was about setting boundaries. I kind of felt like as a trainee, I had to say yes to everything, and that meant going overtime and working weekends. And I think absolutely yes, do that. Like if you're free and you have the time, go for as much as you can. But also things like being expected to answer the phone at 9 at night, you're perfectly okay to say, actually, no, when I clock out at the end of the day, I'm not available. And I found that was like a massive learning step, because I thought, oh my gosh, like they're not gonna keep me on if I don't say yes to absolutely everything. So it's really learning that balance. And also just start networking and looking for jobs as soon as you get that opportunity. Like I remember we're all talking as trainees, like, oh, our contracts are coming to the end. Do you think we can start looking for jobs, or is that a bit cheeky? And it was like, absolutely yes. Like start looking and start talking to people at your work. Some of them will be like, oh yeah, we're going to keep you on. And others will be like, oh, I really enjoyed working with you. We don't have anything right now. Keep in touch, but also have you heard about this opportunity? And I think I kind of spoke about the other ones about being vulnerable and talking to trainees, but yeah, I must have had some free time on my hands, and I thought I would just make this.
Just a couple of things to come back on that. We did have an issue one year where a trainee had actually found a job somewhere else, and the company were absolutely kicking themselves because they hadn't offered that person, they hadn't offered him a job, and he moved on straight after his traineeship ended. So it's actually the early, it's a good thing, and we do give you guidance and support into when's a good time to start broaching that and having that conversation. It's something that has come back. Somebody asked around what's the, what help do we give with finding ongoing employment after the traineeship? I mean, it's important for us to say that working in TV traditionally is a freelance industry. You don't tend to get a job for life. It's quite a challenging environment at the moment. There's a lot of things going on with the downturn in advertising and commissioning a little bit, so you come into this world knowing that it's not necessarily getting a job with a company that you're going to be with for the next 3 or 4 years. So we also provide support on the program to help you operate as a freelancer. And I think a lot of people who've done, every one of the trainees who's done the course in the past have all said that training was invaluable, even how you do your tax returns and how you manage your finances, and they're all nodding, you see, because it's an important thing to know, and it's a skill to take through life with you, even into other areas if you didn't stay within screen. But I do think that's, it is important. Amy's role then as the new entrant training manager, she runs the RAD program, but she also is there for anybody who's done RAD before. And we're trying, very much to create a wider network. So you've got, everybody keeps talking about the cohort or the network that they were in for the RAD they were on, but also we'd want to have a pool and a network of RAD alumni from across the different RAD programs, so that you've got people who you can see have moved up in their careers and moved on, and help each other on the way up too. There's been a question here around the 8 to 10, somebody's saying there's like, if there's 8 to 10 trainee roles, how can you give us an approximate sense of how many applications we would usually receive? It's usually about 150 to 200, isn't it, Amy? So that kind of gives you a sense of your odds and your chances. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
Yeah, so like Claire said, kind of between 150 to 200 we normally get. So I think that does kind of show you that you really have to kind of put it all into the application. Don't do it super last minute. Kind of take some time and make sure that you've got everything in there that you want to say, so that you can come across as amazing as possible.
But also, if it gets to the evening of the deadline or the night before the deadline, and you've been dithering, if you're there on the call now and you're just going, oh, I'm not sure if it's right for me, you've nothing to lose. I think that's what I would say. I don't know if the three of you would agree with me. Were any of you last minute appliers? No, we all very organized.
I wasn't like so last minute, but it was maybe like a week before, and it was when I joined one of these calls. It's kind of probably about a similar time that I applied now, and it was just kind of like a whim of the moment, but I did spend an entire day on that application.
Oh, good woman.
It wasn't last minute, but it was I did put my all into it. It was yeah.
Great. Well, listen, Tommy, thank you very much for the panelists for sharing so much today. Sorry if we didn't get to your questions. Some of them were very long. It's not hard to read them online, but we will get back to you offline if we didn't get to you in the actual the run of the webinar. Thank you guys so much for your time today and for sharing your career path with us. And to anybody who's in the room, you've nothing to lose. Apply for RAD, and best of luck with your applications.
Just to say before we finish, if you have got any questions you want to email, the email address is on our website, but it is projectmanager@trcmedia.org, and we'll get back to you there. And applications close on Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.